Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. If you were with us for our last session, you know we cracked the code on proof of work difficulty adjustment, right? We explored how the network smooths out variance over the long haul to keep blocks arriving roughly every 10 minutes. But today we're zooming in. We're doing a full proof of work security analysis. We want to know how the network defends against common adversarial behaviors in the short term. Minute by minute, how are your transactions actually protected? Well, let's get into it.
Okay, here is our master blueprint for the day. 1, the cumulative work rule. 2, short window attacks. 3, the power of confirmations. 4, deep reorgs and attacks. 5, real-world warning signals. And finally, 6, practical security policies.
Section 1. The cumulative work rule.
So, to rewrite Bitcoin's history, an attacker has a literally monumental task in front of them. They have to outwork the honest miners. Proof of work basically takes time and processing power and turns them into a slowly accumulating, totally verifiable score. We call this cumulative work. Think of every block added to the chain as carrying a numeric score based on how difficult it was to mine. The chain tip score, that's just the total sum of all those difficulties combined. It's kind of like a massive global marathon relay team. Every time a runner finishes a leg, the total distance run by the team increases. It's an undeniable mathematical record of the energy and time spent.
And it all boils down to this one golden rule. More work wins. That is absolutely crucial to understand, because every single defense we're going to look at today rests on this fact. Security simply comes down to whether an adversary can produce more cumulative work than the rest of the honest network within a specific time window. If they want to push an alternate chain and rewrite history, well, their chain's score has to beat the honest chain's score. It's just elegantly brutal math.
Moving to Section 2, short window attacks, or as I like to call them, relying on pure luck. Knowing that the heaviest chain always wins, how do attackers actually try to pull a fast one? Let's walk through the mechanics of a short window double spent attack. Put yourself in the shoes of a merchant for a second. Step 1, you accept a payment immediately, without waiting for the transaction to be locked into a block. That's a zero confirmation transaction. Step 2, an attacker, maybe they hold like 10% of the network's hash rate, secretly and instantly tries to mine an alternate block that sends those exact same funds back to themselves instead of you. Step 3, if they get incredibly lucky and solve their block before the honest network solves the real one, they broadcast it, history is overwritten, and your payment is gone. But notice how this relies entirely on temporary luck and a slight hash rate advantage over a very, very narrow window of time.
Now, if you ever dig into the academic papers on this, you'll see these short window attacks described with intimidating math jargon, things like Poisson arrivals and Bernoulli trials. But let's diffuse that right now. A short window attack is basically a single sprinter trying to outrun that massive marathon relay team we talked about, relying purely on a sudden, unlikely burst of luck. Contrast that with long window attacks. Those require sustained hash rate superiority and massive wealth. That's less about luck and more about buying an entire fleet of supercars to outdrive the relay team over weeks. It's a completely different threat model.
Section 3, the power of confirmations. So how do we defend against these lucky sprinters? It all builds on Satoshi Nakamoto's original approximation. Let's say the honest network has 90% of the hash power and our attacker has 10%. In probability terms, our attacker fraction, let's call it Q, equals 0.10. Now, because block arrivals are memoryless processes, meaning past luck doesn't guarantee future luck, every single time the honest network mines a new block, the attacker falls further behind. Their probability of catching up doesn't just tick down linearly, it drops exponentially with every single new block added to the honest chain. Which brings us to the famous magic number 6, the 6 confirmation rule. If you just wait for 6 blocks to be mined on top of your transaction, the risk of an attacker with 10% of the network hash rate catching up becomes astronomically small. At 6 confirmations, an attacker trying to reverse your transaction relying purely on luck is about as likely to succeed as getting struck by lightning while cashing in a winning lottery ticket. No joke.
But, and this is a really vital but, we need to clarify something. Confirmations provide probabilistic finality, not an absolute guarantee. A 6 confirmation rule is an excellent practical policy. In fact, if you run a Monte Carlo simulation in Python modeling block production, you'll literally see the success rate flatline right towards 0. But remember, it represents a fading mathematical probability. It is not a magical, impenetrable physical wall. If an attacker somehow controls 51% of the hash rate, no number of confirmations is absolutely safe. All right, section 4, deep reorgs and attacks.
Because of that fading mathematical reality, we have to shift our focus to the larger, scarier, but thankfully much rarer threats. Look at the top of our threat landscape here. We have short double spends governed by Poisson arrivals. Our defense? Just wait for confirmations. In the middle, we have selfish mining, where miners try to game the system by keeping blocks private for a propagation advantage. The defense there is dense network connectivity. But down at the bottom, deep reorgs, the 51% attack. This requires a sustained majority of hashrate. And the defense here isn't just math, it's economics. To rent or hold sustained majority hash power requires astronomical, bleeding economic costs. The network makes it ruinously expensive to attack it long term.
Section 5, real-world warning signals.
We know the theory, and we know the math. But in our Forge College courses, we always emphasize looking at live metrics. The network is constantly emitting metasignals when something is amiss. You want to watch for an unexpected increase in orphaned blocks, unusual block timestamp patterns, or sudden chain tip replacements of more than a block or two. Or the big one, massive sudden drops in global hash rate. These signals actually allow nodes to detect if a massive miner suddenly goes offline due to, say, a power outage, or if someone is acting maliciously in the shadows.
Finally, section 6, practical security policies.
So how do we actually use this stuff? Here is the blueprint for how we operationalize all this math into daily use. You have to treat confirmation depth not as a binary, safe or unsafe switch, but as a risk dial. If you're a merchant selling a $2 cup of coffee, the transaction value is super low, right? You can probably accept the zero confirmation risk because literally no one is going to spend millions in computing power to double spend a coffee. For a medium value transfer, like buying a laptop, wait several confirmations. But for a multi-million-dollar high-value settlement, you demand deep confirmations, maybe 10 or 15. And you aggressively cross-check those network metasignals we just discussed before ever handing over the keys.
I want to leave you with a thought to ponder today. If you are running a node right now and you noticed a sudden 30% drop in global hash rate, how would that change your confirmation policy tonight? Think about how that immediate drop in difficulty, relative security, impacts the probabilities we talked about. This real-time application of mechanics sets the stage perfectly for our next lesson, where we'll dive into proof of work, validation, and synthesis. To explore that and to dive deeper into all things Web3, I really encourage you to visit us at forge.college. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.